Now, with a mad rush to the grocery stores in recent weeks, many have ended up finding themselves looking at empty shelves. And so some have taken to social media and have complained about the selfishness and greed of others. And while, of course, there's truth to that, and yet at the same time, I'm very tempted to reply to some of these complaints and say, so you really didn't see this coming? Seriously? I mean, back in January when news reports first came out that entire Chinese cities of millions of people were in lockdown, these people didn't see the seriousness of the situation, that this was no ordinary virus, and that in the age of air travel, it would inevitably make its way here. So maybe, just maybe, they should start stocking up just to be safe. My wife and I took it seriously, and without going crazy, we stocked up on the essentials long before the mad rush to the grocery stores even began. So does that mean we were being selfish? Does that mean we were being greedy? Not at all. We were simply practicing the age-old virtue of prudence. Hi everyone, I'm Mark Leeming and welcome to this Thursday morning Bible chat. Now, prudence means you always have the future in mind. You don't know what life will throw at you down the road, so it's always important to be prepared, to have a plan B, or a plan C, or even a plan D. Now, my parents knew the importance of prudence. My Canadian father, he was born in 1928, so his early years, he grew up during the Great Depression and World War II. And likewise, my British mother, at that time, she also had to endure the threat of bombs falling from the sky and also had to endure the severe wartime rations that Britain had to go through during World War II. That's all to say that those formative years of my parents' lives made them into very frugal and prudent adults, much to my dismay often as a kid. I mean, even today, if I were to throw out, say, an old frying pan, my 91-year-old father who lives with us will somehow find it and squirrel it away somewhere because you just never know when you might need it. And yet, for those of us born post-World War II, we've largely lived in a state of drunken stupor, where we can have anything at no cost or no compromise, that we can have endless government programs with no significant tax increases. And so, to finance all of this madness, we've simply elected politicians to write IOUs in our children's names. Now, 2,500 years ago, the writer of Proverbs said this: "Whoever strays from the path of prudence comes to rest in the company of the dead. Whoever loves pleasure will become poor. Whoever loves wine and olive oil will never be rich." Now, two quick points. The first is that verse 16 states that prudence is like a path. In other words, it's a lifestyle, it's a lifelong journey. And if you wander off that path to live only for the moment, only for pleasure, then you're asking for trouble. The second point is that verse 17 says that while the path of prudence may not be as exciting and as fun as the endless path of pleasure, but in the long run, it will help you to avoid ruin and misery and despair. The path of prudence means living responsibly now, preparing in advance for the storms of life that will inevitably come our way. It sort of reminds me of that ancient Aesop fable concerning the ants and the grasshopper. How, while one summer when the ants were busy storing up for winter, the grasshopper, however, foolishly squandered the entire summer by having fun, singing and dancing. But then winter came. And for us with COVID-19, a certain kind of winter has descended upon us. And how prepared have we been? Perhaps as a culture, we need to humble ourselves, dust off this ancient virtue of prudence, and start applying it to our lives.